Frank Brahani, independent travel writer, joining me this morning. Frank, thank you for your time. That is, as I say, our understanding is that Thomas Cook is not terribly far away from making that announcement. What's your understanding of where we are?
Well, as you indicated, it appears that the news will be coming out in the early hours of the morning that Thomas Cook will be going into administration. A sad day for a British institution, a sad day for the father of modern tourism.
Most of Sunday was spent with Thomas Cook trying to raise £200 million. That would have kept the business going. Where would that £200 million have fitted into the survival plan for the company?
Well, that amount of money would have seen them through the leaner months of the year, through the winter months. So lesser demand, but it would also have helped to service the interest payments on the debt that they've accrued.
Now, if this is confirmed within the next couple of hours, what firstly does that mean for people who are currently on Thomas Cook holidays? And there are tens of thousands of them around the world.
Yes, essentially, it's not a complete reassurance, but it is good reassurance. Most of the holidaymakers will be covered by the financial protection contained in the package travel regulations. So there are three types of holidaymakers: the package holidaymaker, the linked travel arrangement holidaymaker, and the independent traveller. So the first two will have ATOL protection, which means that if they're on holiday, they'll be able to continue with the holiday and they'll be flown home at the time they were due to fly home. If holidaymakers, your listeners, are about to go on a holiday, they will get their money back through the ATOL scheme or other insurance scheme that's provided. The only shortfall on that will be as if they paid for a hotel at the airport or indeed car hire or car parking. They'll have to claim through their travel insurance. The independent traveller, if they bought separate components like a hotel or a flight only from Thomas Cook, I'm afraid they will have to sort this out on their own, but they should check their travel insurance for insolvency protection and help.
So if somebody is planning to go on a Thomas Cook holiday today or in the next couple of days, if this insolvency does indeed happen, what happens to that holiday? So
if they make the announcements at 3 o'clock this morning, effectively those flights that are in the air, I think you'll find that they'll have to be turned around to come back to the UK. Those holidaymakers due to arrive at the airport later this morning, I'm afraid they will find that there is nobody there to check them in. The holiday will be cancelled. And as I said earlier, any financial protection that they've got under their holiday arrangements will kick in. They will get refunds, entire refunds for the holiday that they paid for, apart from any shortfalls.
So flights en route to their destinations would be turned around and sent back to the UK?
I'm afraid that is it. That's what's happened in previous administration bankruptcy cases. And indeed, those flights that are on the ground about to depart, unless there's been an arrangement made between the company and, for example, the Civil Aviation Authority, those flights will stay on the ground unless special provisions have been made.
Goodness. Because we saw yesterday lots of people going to airports, checking in as normal, perhaps hoping that if they did check in, if they got on the plane, then they'd manage to escape this. They'd at least get to their destination and could sort out their return at a later date. But that's not necessarily the case.
Well, those who've already left, say those who left on Sunday, because they will have financial protections in place, they will be able to continue with their holiday and they will return home at the time that they thought they were going to return. So they shouldn't see any effect. The concern that I have, perhaps, is, as we saw in the earlier reports, of holidaymakers being, if you like, held hostage in Tunisia. I mean, that shouldn't happen. That's a civil debt. And really, the Civil Aviation Authority are dealing with financial protection issues. The Foreign Office should actually be helping those holidaymakers through their embassies and consulates.
Yes, and for anyone not following that story, when we talk about holidaymakers being held hostage, what's actually happening is that in some hotels, holidaymakers' buses are being prevented from leaving the grounds, gates are being closed, until those holidaymakers essentially pay again for their holidays.
That is correct, but let's think about this logically. If that were to happen, say, in this country, the rights that we enjoy as citizens in this country would kick in, and you would not expect as a visitor to this country to actually be subject to that kind of behaviour. If you look at the constitutions and the legal systems of other countries, there are similar provisions where you can't be, if you like, falsely imprisoned or held against your will, particularly where a civil debt arises. So I'm afraid all of this is rather illegal, and that's where I say the Foreign Office should step in and protect the rights of these holidaymakers and advocate on their behalf.
Now, there were warning signs just a few months ago when the profits, or shares I should say, in Thomas Cook slumped by 17% after results for the 6 months up until March were announced. Thomas Cook said, at the time, political uncertainty related to Brexit has led to softer demand. Little doubt that the Brexit process had led many UK customers to delay their holiday plans for this summer. Has Brexit done for Thomas Cook, do you think?
I think it's only part of the story, and in fact, it's not just a Thomas Cook story, it's a travel industry story, whether it's other tour operators, travel providers, or airlines. We've seen the landscape of the last 2 years littered with administrations and bankruptcies. And it is because of fierce competition, fierce cost-cutting, changing consumer habits, Brexit, primarily through the currency fluctuations. And of course, that has an effect on oil prices for oil or hotels or indeed resort costs. All of that has created what I term as the perfect storm. But it isn't by any means a particular issue just for Thomas Cook. It's right across the travel industry. And of course, the big elephant in the room is all the debt that they carry.
And when it comes to, I guess, the future of holidays, we talked about this on the programme on Friday morning when the signs were there that Thomas Cook was in a very difficult place. Will we see the traditional travel agent, of which Thomas Cook was maybe one of the last remaining examples, disappear not just from the high street, but kind of from our consciousness as well, as increasingly holiday bookings are made online and people will shop around to get the best deal from different providers?
Well, there's a school of travel agents out there who would probably contradict what I'm about to say. I mean, I personally believe that travel agents do provide a very good service. But, let's understand the reality, the pressures of the high street. Any high street, you can see many units are closed, and the travel industry is no more immune from that than any other business. Going forward, I think you will probably see the way package holidays are sold are done more online. There's a very good law, the package travel regulations, which governs the way holidays are indeed sold online, and most of them these days are classed as package holiday contracts, which imports good protections for consumers. But the landscape for travel agents is going to be troubled, I guess, over the next couple of years.
Thomas Cook is the oldest travel operator in the world. If after 3 o'clock this morning, we hear that it is going to administration, Project Matterhorn will be triggered, and this is the repatriation operation that will see the government try to get the best part of 150,000 people back to the UK.
I need to slightly correct this. I see government ministers coming out and talking about the operation that they're organising. Let's give credit where credit is due. The package travel regulations require financial protection in place. The people who organise it is the Civil Aviation Authority. They have done for years without any input, generally speaking, from ministers. By all means, the Department of Transport are abreast of the situation, but it really is the sole responsibility of the Civil Aviation Authority. As I say, they've been doing it very effectively for years. Right. And no doubt they will do it here again.
So this is not a case of Grant Shapps and Dominic Raab donning their pilot uniforms and flying the planes themselves?
I think it's a bit of flight of fancy, if you'll excuse the pun, as far as politicians are concerned. The oil or should I say the mechanics of this have been well oiled for many, many years. I think I said earlier, the real thing that Dominic Raab should be concentrating on is the difficulties that holidaymakers get into abroad simply because of the unilateral actions taken by individual hoteliers. He needs to bring forward more information on the Twitter and Facebook feeds for the embassies and consulates and make sure that holidaymakers know how to contact them and advocate for them and make sure that they are able to move freely from the hotels. Because after all, this is a civil debt which is not of the holidaymakers' making.
Frank, thank you for that.